Welcome back to Steps and Stories. This is the special episode of Future Ready Jobs and Skills Beyond 2030, the podcast dedicated to helping you prepare today for the world you will work in tomorrow. I am your host, Ameya Naik, and if you are a student or young professional, you know that the rules of the career game have changed. Roles like drone pilot and AI prompt engineer are now six figure careers, and experts estimate 65% of today's students will end up in jobs that don't exist yet. The critical question is, how do we future proof ourselves? Today, we have a true visionary who has spent decades bridging Indian ambition and global opportunity. Our guest is Mr. KP Singh, founder director of the Institute of Management and Foreign Studies, IMFS. For over 26 years, Mr. Singh has supported more than 60,000 students in achieving their international education goals. He is the pivotal advocate who has helped transform India's international education story. In this conversation, we will explore why skills and adaptability are the new currency of success beyond 2030 and how finding your North Star ensures you thrive in this age of digital disruption.
Thank you so much, sir, for taking the time out today with us.
Absolutely a pleasure. Thank you for calling me.
Sir, we know that you are not just a counselor or just a teacher, but a visionary leader who has shaped India's education story for international education. So, can you talk a little bit in brief about how has IMFS transformed and how have you seen the India education story transform over the last 26 years?
Right. So the role of IMFS has been to transform the Indian education system. So what we noted around 27 years ago was, there was a lack of aspiration to go abroad. Information was missing. Do remember, this is very, very early 1990s. So internet was yet to percolate down into houses. Therefore, the flow of information was limited, and therefore the idea of a student going abroad to study was just not there.
Yeah.
So we're very, very privileged that at IMFS we have the honor, we have the privilege of so-called internationalizing the Indian education scene. Therefore, I would like to say that my life's work has been to turn dreams into aspirations, into reality.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir, for your service. Sir, I can remember my time when I was passing out of college, and we all, of my age, students of that age, had an aspiration to go and study abroad. Today, when you see, we are at yet another threshold like that. But when I observe, how jobs are changing, 65% of jobs that the kids today are going to do not exist yet. So, does a foreign degree or even a higher education in general make sense in today's world?
Well, I understand one basic truth, that a foreign degree is not a magic to success. Absolutely not. There's a lot of hard work. So there are certain sections of society among the youngsters in today's times where the belief is that if I get the visa to go abroad, it's going to change drastically overnight my lifestyle. That's not going to happen. There's going to be a lot of effort, a lot of hard work to be put behind. And therefore, in today's world, degrees don't buy you jobs. It's going to be skills that do that. And therefore, if you think about this, 10 years ago, nobody even knew what a prompt engineer was.
Yeah.
And today, it's a six-figure number.
Correct.
Right, in terms of salaries and incomes. And there is widespread disruption that you can notice in almost every stream in the world today. And AI, of course, being the big disruptor.
Yeah.
And therefore, what you're going to be noticing is in the next 5, maybe 10 years, this is a perception that what we are seeing today, those jobs, the kind of jobs we are seeing today, 90,000 varieties of those jobs will cease to exist.
Wow.
I mean, we were in a university in the US, and we were looking at the kind of work they were doing at the robotics. So it just beat your imagination power. Think of this, a robot, which today, if you feed into it a software and download a kind of an API, so today it works like somebody who's going to clean the house.
Yeah.
All right. And tomorrow you remove that API and plug it in another API, and now suddenly a robot is somebody who is maybe cleaning cars or maybe he's driving your vehicle, or maybe he's ordering food online. So obviously there has been huge disruptions. And therefore, I think the student community watching today, it's rather imperative. It's important that they stop chasing the idea of a dream of going to a certain value of a university. Rather, what they got to do is start investing in the utility that they will get out of that degree.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that every student has to seek is going to be digital fluency. It's going to be design thinking. It's going to be AI literacy. And inevitably, I think this is probably the most important, cross-cultural competence and integration. The power to look at human beings and communicate. Somewhere in the last few years, especially post-COVID, I think we as a humanity, we lost the ability to look at other humans and communicate one-to-one. We rather would communicate with a machine than a human. That thought process has to change. But coming back to your question again, therefore what I see is that the right university, what it does is it future-proofs you, right? It doesn't just flatter you. So don't go by the name. Go by the utility or what the degree is going to offer you, all right? That's going to be the bottom line, the mantra to success.
Absolutely, sir. I think you've already busted a couple of myths, which is usually what I look for in this podcast for students. There's a lot of expectations that parents have from students, and students also have from themselves. And with these expectations probably come a lot of misconceptions because, foreign land, we've heard stories about how life is over there. You've already, you already given a good advice to students that your life is not going to change overnight. There's going to be some struggles, right? What are some other misconceptions that parents and students have that you would like to postulate?
So, I think and I'm talking with the Indian population, and I talk with a deep sense of admiration and respect for everybody in India. But somewhere, I think as parents, we went through severe hardships, all right, difficulties. We don't want our children to go through the same hardships. So we are kind of overprotecting them. And in a way, that is coming back to damage their own development. Right now, I remember when I was in junior school, I used to go all the way from Baikala by bus alone to Sion, walk to the bus stop, and from the bus to the school all on my own. And today, you feel hesitant to even have your child go by a taxi. You rather have a car drop him off somewhere. So I think we got to take a step back as parents and understand that the child is an individual. He has to live his own dream. And for a dream to fructify, it's extremely important that he also be prepared to face the hardship. He has to own the hardship, right? So that's going to be the bottom line. First of all, temper your expectation of your child. Do not fall into that rabbit trap of your child end up doing what you fail to do. All right. So don't push your dreams onto a student or to a child and make him do stuff that he probably doesn't want to do. And I think that again, as Indian parents and hard-pushing Indian parents, we all somewhere fail to do that. So I think the best thing we could probably do is allow our kids to grow up, allow them to become wonderful human beings, sense the mud, smell the mud, sense the air, and hopefully enjoy the fruits of existence by working hard.
Very well said, sir. I mean, we all as parents, as elders, want our dreams to be made true by our children and the next generation. And you rightly said that we should let children discover themselves. We should let them identify or find their North Star, so to say. So we spoke a lot about parents or family systems in India. But what is the responsibility of our education institutions? I know you advise and you collaborate with colleges for revising their curriculum. Is there anything that our industry or our education system is doing in the recent years that you've seen, which is actually helping students live this new reality in a more confident and clear way?
We are seeing a lot of changes on ground. So We are seeing universities in India trying to understand where the system is all over the world. I'll also take a step back. Look at us. We come from a wonderful heritage, Bharat Rashtra. So 1200 years ago, people came from all over the world to India to study. So Nalanda, Takshashila, Vikramshila were wonderful institutions where you disseminated the spread of knowledge, the joy of knowledge, right? Over a period of time, somehow we seem to have lost that connect. And as a result, you're seeing largely two kinds of thought processes coming up. One in the Western Hemisphere, where the education system seems to be more driven by research, excellence in research. But along the way, they also understood something else that is very, very important. And that is a student doesn't need to be just looking at theory. He also needs to get practical understanding of what he's doing. And in that context, I think India is waking up to the reality. Of course, with the very welcome change of 2020, when the NEP got launched, we saw a lot of wonderful changes, and thank God we have now our own education system policy. We're not simply aping what the British left behind for us. And in this new NEP, we're taking care of all the lacunae. And the lacunae we're looking at, of course, lack of research, lack of funding for research, lack of laboratories, the mindset required for it. And lastly, but not the least, is helping a child get into practical learning. So NEP is covering all of that. So we see this on-ground reality where things are changing. And what IMFS is doing is we're trying to, our biggest leap at IMFS has been to enter into this future skills mapping of understanding what a student wants to do, all right, helping him arrive at the knowledge, at the idea, what is it that he wishes to do, and then empowering with the skills to achieve that goal. So that's, of course, on-ground reality.
So glad you said that, sir. It's very important that we encourage the students to do what they want to. First of all, to discover what their North Star is. What is it that they would love to do for a long term? But isn't it also important, sir, to see the market reality as to what is it that the market demands today, and is there then a some kind of an overlap in what the student wants to do plus what the market wants and what the passion of the student wants? So how do you kind of get the student to sync with the market realities today?
First of all, I think the most difficult thing probably as a counselor is to sit down with the student and help him understand what are his strengths. You see, one of the most amazing songs in our country, sung in the eastern parts, is Ekla Janve. Right? So we love to philosophize that virtue of being on your own, achieving things on your own, khud ke dam par. But ultimately, reality is when it comes down to your career, you want to walk on that much walked on path. Follow what other people have done. The shepherding of people into cults. So what we are seeing is to help a student understand what is it he is uniquely capable of. What are his strengths, right? And B, map that to what the world need is. Where are the shortages, all right? And we don't need to think about today. We've got to plan as a nation, as a community, as a society for the changes of the next 20, 30 years. Because I know AI right now is changing mindsets of people. But hey, are we even thinking about quantum computing? What AI has done is, of course, it has done away, as I stated earlier, with roughly 90,000 kinds of jobs. But at the same time, expectations are, our generation has not seen the kind of jobs that will exist. So the expectation is there'll be 100,000 new varieties of jobs. So are we skilling our children? Are we making them future-proof? That's going to be the need of the hour. And I think that's the most important thing that we as a society owe our next generation, helping them understand what their skills are, what is it that they should do, and then empower them to achieve that goal.
So very well said, sir. But I do have one more question over here in what you said. If we do not know what jobs are going to come in the future, how do we decide which skills to impart today? Are there any universal skills or transferable skills, as we say, that students today should pay more attention to so that they future proof their jobs beyond 2030?
You see, if a student is showing genuine curiosity, all right, he's working on community projects, he's doing internships, assignments, so the so-called practicals oriented learning, then this kid already is on a strong path to success. Now, no matter how the landscape changes, and it will change,
Yeah.
all right. I go to several colleges every year. Roughly, I address around 15, maybe 20,000 students, and I question them. All right, you're all following streams like computer science,
Yeah.
which are at the moment doing really well, but their depth of knowledge in that sector
Mm.
at sometimes amazes me.
Mm.
I mean, you'll be shocked that in my 30-year career, I constantly question students during seminars. It's always a two-way conversation, never a one-way talk.
Mm.
Till today, there has only been one student who has answered all the questions I asked during a talk.
Okay.
All right. And I'm so happy to tell you it's a girl.
Okay.
Maybe I think that's a very wrong statement.
Mm.
It is no surprise it is a girl. All right. This girl answered every question, and today we are grooming her for getting into a research program into one of the top ranked universities. She will, with the grace of God, go next year. Right? But this is what I see with students. If they have that genuine curiosity to learn, if you're able to nurture and garnish it, and along with that, add the spices, the aroma of the ability to talk to people, communicate with people, be fluid. All right. The future is going to be painted on a canvas where people don't just have 4 sets or 3 sets of talents. It's rather how you're able to combine all your skills, your abilities, and mold yourself in a way, in a fashion, in a manner that makes you stand out. So the success, I thank you for this question. The success in the next 20 years, I know we cannot predict what's going to be happening, but let us make our students be fluid, able to adapt to situations. And that could be the borderline or the key mark of a successful individual.
Beautiful, beautiful. Great story there about the girl, sir, and what you also said about communication and adaptability. Now, there's so many things that kids today are doing. Students in students in school today are going for internships. Right? Students are doing projects. Students are doing community service.
Right.
I think people in India have, at least in urban India, have understood the importance of building an all-round personality and all-round profile. Now, sir, doing is one thing, but being able to showcase it, being able to demonstrate is another thing. I know you've written a little bit about how to create a profile online. Maybe it's a LinkedIn profile, how to create your resume. So, do you want to throw some light on these important aspects? Right. First of all, do you think these are important aspects that what you do needs also to be demonstrated even better?
I think I'll go back to my school days, right? I went to a school where I had to learn Marathi and Hindi. Now, Marathi was never my first language. We spoke Punjabi at home. So therefore, it took me a lot of effort to learn the local language.
Yeah.
I did. Today, a lot of my talks in Maharashtra are in Marathi, right? So the point I'm trying to deliver is the student that was KP Singh, say around 40 years ago, couldn't communicate as effectively and therefore end up with just barely passing marks. Your power to effectively put your ideas into words and communicate was limited. So success was limited. Your opportunity of growth was limited. And today, by sheer power of communication, if you're able to convey the idea in the language that people are able to understand, I think there you have it. I think if I go back and take precedence from the great Gita, the Sri Bhagavad Gita, all right, one of the most secret texts in India, it was difficult to understand it because it was written in Sanskrit, right? And the local population just couldn't understand, right? So it always remained a revered thing, but not a much understood idea. Till you had a local saint, Sant Jnaneshwar, who translated it into Pali, the local script. Now suddenly something that was confusing became so wonderful, but people understood it. And that is why I say to every young student who's listening to this podcast, yes, your skills are important. Yes, you need to be able to work with your hands. You need to be able to mold and make stuff and create things. But your ability to tell that via a story is equally, if not more important. Harvard did a research on this. All right, so the research was they got together people who hired from Harvard Business School, so recruiters, and they asked them, what are the skills you see in our students? What interests you the most? Well, A, B, C, X, Y, Z, lots of skills came up, but two stood out. The two were domain knowledge and soft skills. And it was quite amazing that the recruiters, they wanted just 20% of success in domain knowledge, but 80% to be able to communicate effectively. And therefore, to every student, you have the skills, you need to be able to tell those stories, either via a resume or via a strong LinkedIn profile. Create these amazing GitHub repositories, you're able to tell your stories. And one mistake every individual commits is he will tell you, I know X and I know Y. Technical skills, I know Python, I know R, I know SQL. That is irrelevant. What the reader of that script wants to see is how you use that skill to resolve a problem. So you begin with a problem statement and say, I use this skill and this was the end solution. So tell those stories, and that's what is going to get you the jobs, not just today, but even tomorrow.
That's a wonderful advice. And I think I'm trying to connect all the skills that you've been saying as transferable skills, communication, adaptability, and now you also mentioned about storytelling. You need to be able to tell your story. I mean, it's so powerful, isn't it? And I think I don't know about so much about today's times. I know there's a lot of good changes, but our education system probably is not encouraging students to tell stories enough. And I think that's a wonderful point for our audience to take away today. But sir, our society is kind of has grown up thinking about technology skills, coding, all these languages like Python, C Sharp, Java, So, and parents today look at, if I'm sending my kid for higher studies, they're looking at this keyword called as ROI.
Right.
And how do I get that ROI? So if a kid today is going for bachelor's versus if somebody is going for master's, how should they think about this ROI fees?
I think the ROI everybody should be looking at is from a university, for an undergrad perspective, is where does it land you in terms of either a job or hopefully going on and doing a master's. So start mapping. Start mapping your abilities to your aspirations and understand what's the segue, what's the bridge that allows you with your abilities to meet your goals. If you find that you're somebody who's excellent at using your hands and practical knowledge, please go right ahead. And after an undergrad degree, what we in India call as BSc or a BCom or a BA, after your undergrad degree, start working because you don't need a master's. But if somewhere that desire to know more is there, your abilities, of course, are very important. But your desire is equally important. Your aspiration is very, very important. If that exists, then a master's is what you need to choose. And today there are several kinds of masters. There are masters which prepare you to understand how to use your skills into factory lane situations. For example, if I go to study in Australia,
Hmm.
most of the programs there are tuned to help you enter the industry,
Hmm.
right? So I would want a student who wants to enter the industry, enter into a study program like that.
Hmm.
But if I want to get into pure heart-funded research,
Hmm.
then there are so many universities in America that are tuned towards, after your bachelor's is over, putting into a master's degree that allows you to understand the power of research, that ability to sit down for hours and hours, do research, and failing.
Hmm.
So our advice to students is learn that failure is a part of your 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 ladder of growth.
Yeah.
Learn to accept failure and accept it and adopt it. And that is where you'll find somewhere your story of growth coming up. Because through failures, only do you achieve success. Right? Let's do remember that it was a man having a bath, Archimedes, who discovered another law.
Hmm.
So through doing X, sometimes you end up with a Y result.
Yeah.
So it was Newton who was sleeping under a tree when he discovered the law of gravity. So you might be doing something else, and the result may be something else.
Yeah.
You brought up the North Star, right? For us, North Star cannot be a direct, it cannot be a destination.
Hmm.
It has to be a direction, right? So for high schoolers, what we do, therefore, is create the skill journey map.
Hmm.
All right. Now, to understand the skill journey map, discover your passion. What is it that excites you? What is it you love deeply? Very important. Number two, you got your passion going. Understand your strengths. Do a SWOT analysis. Where is it that you are really good at? And number three, understand what the market needs are. All right. Or at least speak to somebody who's able to get you some kind of an understanding of where the world is heading.
Yes.
And that really is going to be the bottom line for success. Maybe some student who's listening to us today, maybe he likes storytelling, right? Like we have been talking about it. Maybe that kid is logical,
Yeah.
right? He wants to think about philosophical things. So what we need to understand today is that the world requires AI-driven communication,
Hmm.
all right, empowered by AI, something that leads to digital humanities or leads to computational linguistics, because that is where the world is headed,
Yeah.
towards a cross-migratory area where one skill no longer is enough. Two skills are required. In fact, the debate on our campus usually now is whether two skills are enough and you need three skills to succeed in life.
Yeah.
Right? Therefore, to every student, when purpose guides your plan, then you don't drift. What you're doing rather is you grow and you evolve,
Yes.
and you will find your North Star.
Absolutely. I'm so thankful to you for explaining this so beautiful. I mean, this is one of the missions that we at Skill Journey are trying to solve, sir, is to help people discover and go in the direction of their North Star. And it does not mean, like you rightly said, that the North Star is a rigid place that you somehow have to reach. Maybe after a couple of years or a couple of months, you might discover a new trait in yourself, which might change your North Star a little bit. But at least you're in the right direction at all times. It is like that error correction that flights have, isn't it? Right? So on autopilot, the flight keeps on correcting itself. But for keeping on correcting itself, it needs to understand itself. And one quote that I read recently, sir, somewhere said that we as human beings have time for everything, but we don't have time to understand ourselves.
True.
So if we just invest some time in understanding what our passions are, what our strengths are, like you said, what our weaknesses are even, then we can become so much better. We can take so much better decisions. We can plan better,
Right?
and hence we can then have clarity and confidence in whatever we are doing.
Absolutely. Let's look at what Lord Buddha said about this.
Hmm.
So he said, your life's purpose is to find your purpose. So I think, therefore, every student, every individual,
Yeah.
I think they're living on earth to find their purpose. And once that happens, I think nirvana is in their grasp.
Yeah, that's so deep. Wow. So as students are preparing for building their profiles, doing all these various activities which helps them build a all-round personality, which helps them build a confidence. How important, sir, according to you, are scores? Be it your academic scores or be it the test scores like the SATs or GREs or the IELTS or TOEFLs. Uh, there is so much of buzz nowadays that I hear that a lot of colleges, even internationally, have become test agnostic or test optional schools. Uh, what is your take on whether students should give importance to this course or whether they should give more importance to the profile, or is there a balance that you seek to have over there?
Right. So let's understand that things are different at the undergrad level,
Hmm.
at a master's level, and of course at a postgrad level.
Yeah.
And for elite programs, both things matter. Your marks and your overall persona is what we call as profile.
Yeah.
Right? So both matter. They matter equally,
Hmm.
but differently.
Okay.
But before I answer this question,
Hmm.
let's take a backstep. All right? A backstep into understanding why did universities become agnostic?
Hmm.
What drove that decision?
Hmm.
It's a very interesting, a very fascinating story, Amay.
Hmm.
All right? March 2020,
Hmm.
COVID came and it shut down schools, it shut down institutions, colleges, and economies.
Yeah.
Right? So for a year and a half, sometimes 2.5 years, you had institutions, including ours,
Hmm.
absolutely shut. And there were companies at the back end that were suffering. Companies that depended on doing testing for getting students into colleges and universities.
Hmm.
I will not name the company,
Hmm.
but they conduct a big exam worldwide.
Hmm.
All right, let's put it as GRE.
Okay.
So GRE was a test that you went as a student to a center
Hmm.
to appear for it. Now, to overcome this idea that institutions are shut, schools are shut, so where do you go to give the test?
Hmm.
GRE went online
Hmm.
and they said, give the test at home.
Yeah.
The minute you opened up this test at home, you opened up a Pandora's box of cheating,
Yes.
where from certain sections around the world, people learn how to ace the test.
Hmm.
So GRE is on 340.
Hmm.
Students who couldn't speak 2 sentences of English, they ended up getting 334 on 340 with almost perfect scores in both.
Wow.
Right? And when these students landed up in universities abroad, universities laid out the red carpet
Hmm.
because they thought, oh my goodness, Einstein is coming. The kid who landed up, he couldn't frame sentences together. And that was the beginning of the devaluation
Hmm.
of the entrance exam. Or universities becoming, they couldn't trust them.
Yeah.
Right? Of course, now universities are saying, hey, I don't want the GRE. I don't want the SAT. I would much rather go deeper and interview a student.
Hmm.
Right? Now, why did the interview become necessary? Oh, it became necessary because of another factor. And once again, blame it on COVID. So in COVID, again, students got almost 10 on 10 GPAs.
Hmm.
I mean, even idiots got 9 on 10. Right? Because once again, they aced the test at home.
Yeah.
Although you had proctors and you had various technologies, I don't want to reveal, it is so simple to be able to cheat on these exams.
Yeah.
So students did that.
Hmm.
And therefore, once again, universities could not trust the mark sheets. So interviews became the way of ensuring the student was actually fit
Hmm.
to enter into a program, right? But please understand, how feasible do you think, how viable do you think it is for a university to interview every candidate,
Very good.
right? So at the end of the day, universities have reached a very fine understanding.
Hmm.
Should you meet certain criteria, benchmarks, they will then want to look at your resume to understand whether you're the perfect fit. So what the GRE or the SAT may do, it may open the door,
Hmm.
right? But once the door is open, hey, that is where your resume talks.
Yeah.
That is where your profile talks. And therefore, that's the level up. So what admission officers are doing is they are looking at proof of application. Can you apply what you learned in theory? All right. And therefore, your LinkedIn profile becomes a very important source. Your GitHub repositories, what projects you did, how well you explain them. All right, what are the skills you learned by those projects? Research posters, or maybe presentations and papers, they all have become imperative and extremely important. So today we're living in a world where tests, the universities may say they're agnostic, they can become the defining factor to open the door. And therefore, my advice to every student, if you have the time and you have the ability to put in hard work, give the test. Because it's going to be adding on to your profile. I know we're talking a little longer on this one, so one more sentence. It's very simple. If I have one seat and two candidates, and if the two candidates are equal on every aspect, the differentiator becomes the test score. All right, one more sentence, if you don't mind.
Please, please.
The test score also becomes a kind of a value system to understand your marks. All right, so if I'm from VIT, that's in Vellore, right? And I have a 9 GPA. So the expectation of every university abroad is this kid should get at least a 320 on the GRE.
Yeah.
If he doesn't get that, then the 9 doesn't hold equal value.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a kind of a calibration. Your test becomes a calibration, A, of your marks, your achievements in numbers. And I think one more aspect that comes out by a test is that a test also allows a university abroad to understand how a student, say in Andhra Pradesh, in a certain area in Chittoor, when he gets a 9, how is that 9 equal to somebody who, say, is in Amravati in Maharashtra?
Yeah.
And he also got a 9. So your test score again becomes a big calibrator.
Wow. Yeah, I never thought of that. I mean, a lot of normalization or rationalizations could be done with this technique of comparing the scores across different regions. Thank you, sir, for explaining that so well. A quick follow-up on that. I mean, apart from getting into a college or a university, would these high GRE or SAT scores also help students get a scholarship maybe or teaching assistantship? Would that also help with the scores?
So as I stated, a good strong score helps build your profile.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a statement that I have done well on a test and therefore I'm ready to meet challenges of life. So of course it prepares you for that. When somebody is desirous of scholarship, I think everybody needs to understand your academic performance in India is, of course, of paramount importance. You need to have a very, very strong record academically. That's the first thing. The second thing, of course, are the tests, whether it's the GRE, GMAT, SAT, or the IELTS and the TOEFL. Do well in those.
Yeah.
But thirdly, you have to ensure in those tests, for example, in TOEFL, there is a speaking section. In IELTS, there is a speaking section.
Yes.
So if I'm going to be granting assistantships, teaching assistantships, then I need to be sure the kid is going to be able to speak well.
Yes.
Right? So children therefore need to understand that they need to do well overall, but especially in these areas to get RAs and TAs. Right? But yes, your question remains very valid. If I've done well on the GRE or on the SAT, then there's a very strong indicator of this child ending up getting a scholarship, keeping in mind that the other factors have to be equally sterling.
Yeah. So great. Thanks for clarifying that. So the test scores definitely remain very important. Like you said, if you have the time, if you have the education, I think it is always good to.
And I think one more thing, the heart.
The heart. Yes.
Yeah, the heart to put in the effort.
Absolutely, and that's what differentiates you, right? I mean, in your life. So great. So, sir, I want to switch gears a little bit. From the student's perspective, when they're selecting these universities or colleges, I know in the past, Students have looked at the reputation of the university, the brand of the university, the location of the university. In today's world, has it become also very important to look at the post-work or the post-study work program that the country or the state that they're going to has? I mean, how important is that for today's students to consider when they apply abroad?
Well, I would rather you don't use the word today's student. That has always been the priority.
Yes.
So when we started IMFS almost 30 years ago,
Yeah.
that was the central key point. Today it's become even more so because competition is risen. So yes, but in a way you're absolutely right, because 5 years ago, everybody chased rankings.
Yeah.
All right. What's the reputation? What's the ranking of the program? Today, the smart ones are looking at residency opportunities. And a very classic case is the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
All right. The UK, it used to attract close to 70 to 80,000 Indians every year on year, till they shut down the 2 year stay back and work window. Minute they passed that law, guess what happened? The numbers plummeted from 70, 80,000 straight away down to 12 to 14,000. So obviously the student in India is a very, very smart thinking person. If I don't have an ability or an opportunity to stay back and work, I don't go. All right. And then came 2021, when the Home Secretary of the UK, called Priti Patel, under Boris Johnson's prime ministership, they reinstated the 2 year stay back and work opportunity. Unbelievable that the numbers of students shot up to 90,000 straight away in 22-23. This supports the study that students today are looking at a lot of things, not just the quality of the program, not just the ranking, but how long can I stay back and work. Therefore, countries like Netherlands, which actually give you a year to find a job, is right up there. A country like Germany, that gives you almost 18 months to find a job, is right up there. Look at New Zealand. It's changing its law. If UK is saying from 2027, and by the way, UK is changing its law again.
Oh, is it?
All right. So far, the law is you can stay back and work for 2 years. From 2027 January, it becomes 18 months.
Okay.
All right. So obviously, UK numbers you can expect will go down south. But a country like New Zealand is suddenly saying, hello, why don't you come and study for a master's? And guess what? The master's is just 1 year. And after the 1 year master's, instead of working for 3 years to get my PR, I can work for 1 year and get my PR. So countries are realizing that in order for them to stay relevant, and this brings me to Dr. Michio Kaku's wonderful statement that the H-1B, now we're talking in context of America for a moment.
Yes.
H-1B, for our listeners who don't know, is your work visa. Right? So Michio Kaku said the H-1B is the secret weapon that America uses to dominate the world in technology. Because you're bringing in brains from the outside, and now they're prepping up and propping up the system, and not only ensuring they're contributing economically, but also contributing with their intelligence, their ability. And do remember, we are Indians, probably one of the hardest working people on earth. So we put our backs down and work hard day in and day out. And therefore, yes, students are looking at opportunities. Where can I stay back and work? So at the moment, right now, the flavor seems to be Europe and Oceania, where Australia and New Zealand are ruling the roost.
Yep. Great point. I was glad you mentioned about the H1B struggles and the policy changes. I mean, it's a political reality that we need to accept. I mean, It is what it is. And, I'm sure, so many parents will be coming to you eager to know what should they do now. And some might be very keen on one particular country, let's say the US. So what do you advise these students, or what do you advise these parents is there any way that they can stay resilient, they can stay hopeful about the situation getting better? Because I know it is on top of the minds of many parents and students who maybe have even secured admissions but are not sure whether they will secure a visa, or maybe even they might even have a visa but they are not sure about the social stability or the acceptance of the students over there. And these questions are on the top of the minds of students. And sir, I know that you work with embassies, you work with foreign dignitaries and governments. What is your sense? I mean, is the situation so bad, or is it not as bad as it seems from here?
Perceptions are different from reality.
Hmm.
So if you look at the H-1B proclamation
Yeah.
that was brought out signed on September 19, 2025 by President Trump, the misconception right up front was that this extra fee of $100,000 American
Hmm.
would be put on everybody who applies for an H-1B.
Yeah.
That myth got busted by us immediately at the time. But now USCIS has actually come out with a statement saying 2 weeks ago that H-1B fee of $100,000 is only for outsiders who are entering into the US with the express purpose of working. So a student who earlier went to the US to study, or is currently studying, or in the future plans to go to study in the US, when they transition from the F1, and to our listeners who don't know what the F1 is, the F1 is the student visa. So when they transition from the student visa to the work visa, they do not need to pay the H-1B fee of $100,000. That does not apply to them. Right? So once again, reception is different, reality is different. Point two. I believe in a very strong way that every student should now understand that America, of course, is a wonderful nation. If they want to study at the best, the top ranked universities, America is one of the prime destinations. So I would like the student to go there. But more importantly, what a student needs to do, a smart one, is to have a backup country. So you have option A, let's say the US. And you have option B, let's say a country in Europe, or let's say one in Australia or New Zealand. You apply to two destinations, and somewhere next year in March, April, take a call when you have more data, more reliable information. And for that, for heaven's sake, do not depend on YouTubes and WhatsApps and words of uncles and aunties, well-meaning they may be, but they could be seriously flawed. So look out for official sites that give you pure hardcore data. Learn to interpret the data. This is your first test. Get the idea, get the knowledge, get the information, analyze it. And then decide in March, April next year if it is going to be the US. All right? Now, without naming names, do remember that the kid who lands up, say in the United States, in August next year, for a 2-year program, he will graduate only in August of 2028.
Right.
By which time, the current political dispensation will be much on its way out.
That's right.
And I hope that's a very strong message. So without naming a few things, I have said a few things.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir, for clarifying that, because this fear is very prevalent today and it's very real. And I know a lot of students who are backing out, who are thinking that this is not going to happen. They almost have to give up on their dreams. But I think you've clarified enough now for students to rethink.
It's amazing, Amay, that in everybody's loss, one sees an opportunity.
Yes.
Right? So the minute the sense percolated down to the student community that, oh my God, America no longer may be the land of my dreams, right? Other countries saw the opportunity, right? So the Germany said, we are going to make the blue card easier. If you don't meet the threshold, we will adjust it, right? Straight away, New Zealand brought in its law saying, forget working for 3 years, come work for a year and get your PR. So China said they introduced a K visa, which literally said your studied in the United States, you don't have a job, come here. Once again, pointing to the power of what Dr. Michio Kaku said, that these students are the backbone of any economy in any country. And therefore, your and my message to every one student has to be the same. Be shameless about choosing where you go to study. Because remember, 1200 years ago, people came to India to study.
Yes.
Right? Because we were the place where Gyan ka Ganga was flowing. But today, if you got to go to an alternate country, please go right ahead. But do remember that this is your land of your dreams. This is the land of your birth. You're a first-class citizen here. Go abroad, study, work for 5, 10 years, and then bring back that wealth of knowledge and employ it in India. That has to be the goal of every Indian.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that positive message, sir. We are coming to the end of our podcast, but I do have a couple of very important questions, which are a little personal to you, sir, if I may so.
Sure.
So I know all this disruption happening. You've had experience of running this institute for the last 30 years. I'm sure you would have had to make some difficult decisions. You would have had to change directions for yourself as well as the institute. Can you talk about a couple of difficult as well as defining decisions that you might have made to adjust to the scenario that we see unravel in front of us today?
Well, one of the most difficult periods that we went through after COVID, especially, was the ability for you to innovate, adopt technology. And even as we did that, we ensured that at IMFS, we adopted the idea of digitizing empathy. All right. So you had to use AI. You had to use technology. We had not heard of Zoom. I mean, okay, we had heard of Zoom, but we had never used Zoom.
Yep.
But suddenly you came into a system where Zoom became the key word, right? And therefore, what we had to do, therefore, was to take the warmth of that one-on-one mentorship that you do sitting in person and transmorgify it into putting it online without losing the heart or the shape or the depth of the conversation.
Yeah.
So that was a very, very tough call.
Yeah.
Moving from an offline into an online mode. Absolutely. Right? Second, you have to also impart the knowledge, the ability to our teaching faculty to adopt tools. Do remember that in 2019, most of us in India were absolutely skilled in using the chalk and the white or the blackboard, right? And now suddenly you started using PowerPoints. You got introduced to keywords like animation and annotations, which were foreign to us. So we had to upskill, unlearn, and relearn quite a few things. And I'm so glad that at IMFS, everybody was willing to adopt that challenge. So what we did really, honestly, was therefore, we created an AI-based platform. And that platform, what it does is it tracks every student milestone, right from test prep to financial planning, to applications, to loan guidance, whether the kid has got foreign exchange, is he able to settle it into a country, does he have housing? So we are able to create this via applications and ensure that a student who walked into IMFS and got service, if he got in on a virtual framework on our portal, he got exactly the same service without any loss, either in integrity, in ethics, or in morality. We ensured our sound foundation of caring for the well-being of the child remained constant. That was the one thing we refused to even entertain and think about.
Amazing, amazing, sir. Great to hear about the resilience, and almost you found that opportunity in this adversity and kind of made it even better for the student.
Absolutely. So what we did, we didn't automate counseling. All right. We just amplified the care.
Yes.
That's what we did, and that's what we're doing to keep IMFS future ready.
Absolutely great. So one more personal question. So if you were to think back, your 20-year-old self, what one or two skills or traits would you have wanted to develop, or would you want to develop as a 20-year-old today to remain relevant in this unpredictable job market, or the new jobs, future jobs that are coming beyond 2030?
First of all, you brought back smiles because you said 20-year-old. And I said, okay, that's quite a few moons ago. But yes, if I were to be able to talk to that kid who's 20 years old, I would be telling him that there is going to come a time where you've got to be adaptable. All right. And adaptability, there, I would tell that kid is not going to be about surviving change. Rather, it's going to be about dancing with the change and bringing about an impact and a change within the person and, of course, out of the person as well. I would tell that 20-year-old kid, you're going to college, don't just be in college, be a part of the college, right? Forgive me. I don't know about you. You're very young, am I? But most of the times when we were in college, just not in the classrooms, right? So I would be telling this kid, hey, get a little serious, all right? Understand that the jobs of tomorrow, changes are happening very quickly. You've got to upskill yourself. And I would tell that 20-year-old, identify one strong area you would like to study in. Let's assume it's a bachelor's of computer science. I would tell that kid, your story doesn't end with the bachelor's. It has to go to a master's, and then the PhD is your personal call, whether you do it or you don't, right? But a master's you need to get, because after a bachelor's, you're at the moment knocking at the door of opportunity. You haven't entered. For you to enter it, master's is the must.
Yes.
And for the masters, I would tell that kid, choose, now you got your computer science, now be smart and choose the right major. All right. So I will be looking towards getting into AI. That's the buzzword today. ML is another buzzword. But to that kid, I would also say, if AI, ML are the buzzwords, keep your ears to the ground and check. If everybody around you is talking AI, ML, then maybe it's time for you not to think of AI and to think of something else. Because this world is all about supply and demand.
Yes.
When the supply is so huge and the demand is not able to keep pace with it, you're going to be finding that in the next 4, maybe 5 years, and I hope I'm proved wrong, there'll be so many AI ML engineers that the demand may not be there. Therefore, Amay, it's extremely important for this student to also choose the right minor.
Yes.
So the idea to be percolated is choose the right program, choose the right major, and more important, choose the right minor. So I go for a master's in computer science. I am choosing AI as my major, but my minor could be in something dealing with healthcare, could be dealing with artificial intelligence, for dealing with robotics, could be dealing maybe with fintech. That is what makes you future proof. I would be telling that kid, be courageous, all right? Be confident. Do not be afraid to lose, all right? In fact, I would tell that kid, it's extremely important you fail and fail quickly so that you're able to learn from your mistakes and become a better and a bigger individual, more informed, right? I would tell that kid, don't fossilize in your comfort zone. Ultimately, we all like to say, okay, I like to do this, so I will do only this. Get out of that comfort zone, because that is where success is waiting. Waiting for you to come and examine and look at it and adopt it. All right, make it a part of your life. So therefore, to everybody, the future beyond 2030, we're in 2025. So the next 5 years, it's not going to belong to the person who's the strongest or the smartest. It's going to belong to somebody who's fluid, who's able to adopt and adapt to changes. All right, and that could be the strongest message you and I could ever give to everybody.
Absolutely. Very well said. Great advice. Very wise advice. Now for the last question of the podcast. So what is your North Star when you think of yourself and IMFS? where do you want IMFS to go? What direction are you in?
So there are lots of, again, I think this is one more thing that we should tell our listeners. Understand what your strengths are, discover your passion. You need to know what the world needs. All those three are mandatory. We spoke of them.
Yes.
But also you need to understand what your limitations are. All right? So that you don't go beyond your boundary. Right? So keeping all of this in mind, at IMFS, our aspirations are to go beyond India. All right? We wish to make India the hub of education. But for it to be the hub of education, it's extremely important that students from India today, they wake up to the realities of their abilities. What is it that they can actually achieve? Go out, learn, so that when you're able to come back to India, you're able to share that joy of knowledge. What I call the democratization of knowledge. All right? This was spread by Guru Nanak. When he brought in the philosophy of Vidya Vichari Paparupkari, where you spread the joy of, don't keep it with you. Distribute it as a langar for everybody to partake. All right? So our North Star is, A, let India be the hub. But till that happens, we want to ensure that there is an internationalization of education, where we empower Indian institutions to join hands with foreign universities, and what they are good at, we should be able to deliver that on Indian shores. So student who A, may not have the vision or may not have the money, the wherewithal to go abroad, he is able to enjoy the fruits of that education sitting in India. That is what we are right now looking at, making India a global hub and internationalization of the education system, helping universities come together, with IMFS being the segue, allowing that to be a wonderful jor. I know this may end up promoting Fevicol, but that jor tute, something like that.
Awesome. Well, that's so profound. And thank you so much for giving us all a framework to think about our futures, to think about our careers, to think about higher education, and not be scared. Be courageous. I mean, this was a fantastic session. I think in motivation. I mean, I know that so many students today who are scared. Guys, you need to hear KP sir, and you need to take these lessons that KP sir has shared in today's podcast. Sir, we would love to keep coming back to you, keep learning more from you. But thank you so much today for your time, and it was a pleasure hosting you today.
Pleasure was all mine, and thank you. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you, sir.